Have you ever wondered who is really building the structure of your life? Beyond your name, your history, your accomplishments, who is the true architect of your experience? Look around you for a moment. Everything you perceive, this video, the thoughts arising as you listen, the subtle emotions flickering beneath awareness, all of this is happening within a mysterious space of consciousness. But who is witnessing it all? Most of us live our entire lives never questioning the fundamental assumption of our existence, that we are separate entities navigating through an external world. Yet what if this most basic belief is actually the grand illusion? What if the builder and that which is built are one and the same? Ancient wisdom traditions speak of a master builder, not as some external creator, but as the very awareness that animates your experience right now. This awareness doesn't belong to you. Rather, you belong to it. It's not something you possess, but that which makes all possession possible. It's not something you can find, because it's what enables all finding. Close your eyes for a moment, if it's safe to do so. Notice the parade of thoughts marching across your mind. Who is observing these thoughts? If you say, "I am," then who is this I that can watch thoughts come and go? Can a thought observe itself? Or is there something more fundamental at play, a witnessing presence that remains when all else changes? Consider the most ordinary experiences of your daily life: eating breakfast, driving to work, conversing with friends. In each moment, countless perceptions, thoughts, and feelings arise. The taste of coffee, the pressure of the car seat against your back, the subtle emotional response to someone's tone of voice. All these experiences appear in awareness, but awareness itself remains unchanged by them. Like a mirror reflecting countless images without ever being touched by them, this awareness, your true nature, contains all experience without being confined by any of it. Throughout the ages, philosophers and mystics have pointed to this paradox. We seek that which is already seeking through us. The astronomer searches the heavens, forgetting that the consciousness observing the stars is more mysterious than any celestial body. The biologist examines life under a microscope, overlooking that the awareness perceiving the cells is the greatest wonder of all. The psychologist maps the mind, not realizing that the cartographer itself, pure awareness, cannot be found on any map. Your entire life unfolds within this mystery. The distinction between subject and object is itself an appearance within something more fundamental, something neither subjective nor objective, but the ground of both. Ancient Vedanta calls this Advaita, non-duality. Buddhism names it Shunyata, emptiness that is simultaneously fullness. Christian mystics speak of it as the divine ground, in which all beings have their existence. This is not merely a philosophical question, it's the doorway to freedom. For when you truly investigate who or what you are at the most essential level, the very structure of suffering begins to collapse. The builder discovers itself as both the creator and the creation. Pause and ask yourself, what am I really? Am I the thoughts that arise and pass, the feelings that ebb and flow, the body that changes with time? Or am I the unchanging witness, the silent observer, the space in which all of these come and go? Throughout human history, the interplay of light and darkness has symbolized our deepest understanding of consciousness. Yet we've been conditioned to chase the light and reject the shadow, to pursue pleasure and avoid pain, to seek knowledge and fear uncertainty, to embrace comfort and resist challenge. But what if this constant struggle against half of existence is actually the source of our suffering? Consider this. If there were no darkness, would light have any meaning? If there were no silence, would music touch your heart? If there were no emptiness, could any form exist? The ancients understood this profound truth. Light and darkness are not opponents, but dance partners in an eternal embrace. This understanding permeates the wisdom teachings across cultures. The Chinese symbol of yin and yang illustrates this perfectly, each containing the seed of its opposite, together forming a dynamic whole. The Kabbalah teaches that God withdrew to create space for creation, showing that absence is necessary for presence. Even quantum physics reveals that what appears as solid matter is mostly empty space, with particles blinking in and out of existence against the canvas of void. Your consciousness contains both. Your brightest insights emerge from moments of confusion. Your deepest compassion arises from encounters with pain. Your most authentic strength develops through vulnerability. Yet modern life teaches us to maintain a relentless positivity, to filter our experience, to present only our highlight reel while hiding the so-called negative aspects of our humanity. Consider how this plays out in your life. When sadness arises, how quickly do you try to replace it with something pleasant? When uncertainty looms, how frantically do you seek answers? When discomfort appears, how automatically do you reach for distraction? This constant evasion of half of your experience creates an internal division that consumes tremendous energy. Energy that could be available for creativity, presence, and authentic connection if it weren't diverted to this endless battle against what is. The spiritual marketplace often perpetuates this division, selling techniques to banish negativity, manifest only desirable outcomes, and transcend the messiness of human existence. But what if true spirituality isn't about escaping darkness, but embracing the wholeness that includes both light and shadow? What if the path to freedom isn't found in endless self-improvement, but in the recognition that what you are needs no improvement? Look within. Can you feel the resistance against certain thoughts and emotions? Notice the subtle tension that arises when unwanted feelings appear. This resistance itself creates a division in consciousness, a split between the acceptable and unacceptable, between who you think you should be and who you authentically are. But awareness itself makes no such distinctions. Pure consciousness doesn't prefer light over dark, pleasure over pain, certainty over mystery. It simply allows all to arise and pass, like clouds in the vast sky. The sky doesn't cling to sunny days or resist storm clouds. Its nature remains unchanged regardless of the weather passing through it. The poet Rumi captures this perfectly. The wound is the place where the light enters you. When you no longer resist the darkness within and around you, it reveals its hidden gifts. Depression can lead to unprecedented depth. Loss can open the heart to greater love. Failure can clear the path to authentic success. Not because these experiences are intrinsically good, but because when fully embraced, even the most challenging aspects of life reveal themselves as doorways to greater wholeness. What if your essential nature is like this sky of awareness? What if freedom isn't found in controlling the weather of your thoughts and feelings, but in recognizing yourself as the boundless space in which all experience occurs? This recognition doesn't come through intellectual understanding alone, but through direct experience of your own indivisible nature. Let's pause for a practical moment. The next time you feel discomfort, instead of resisting, simply notice it. Allow it to be present without judgment or the urge to fix. Observe how, when fully allowed, even the darkest emotion begins to shift, revealing a hidden light within. Just as ancient temples stood upon 3 foundational pillars, your experience of reality rests upon 3 interconnected dimensions: thought, emotion, and action. Most of us live with these pillars out of alignment, creating internal conflict and external struggle. We think one thing, feel another, and do something entirely different. We build our identity on shifting sand rather than solid foundation. Consider how often your thoughts contradict your feelings, or how your actions betray your deepest values. This misalignment isn't a personal failure. It's the inevitable result of never questioning who is thinking these thoughts, feeling these emotions, or performing these actions. We assume ownership without investigation. The philosopher G.I. Gurdjieff observed that humans typically exist in a state of waking sleep, mechanically reacting to life without conscious awareness of the forces driving their thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. He taught that true awakening begins with the recognition of this automaticity, followed by the patient observation of these three centers of intelligence. The first pillar, thought, shapes your interpretation of reality. Right now, notice the running commentary in your mind. Is it kind or critical, expansive or limiting, future-focused or present? Most importantly, are you choosing these thoughts, or are they simply appearing in awareness? Can you find the thinker separate from the thoughts themselves? Your thoughts are not just private mental events. They're part of cultural and historical patterns that long preceded your birth. The languages you think in, the concepts available to you, the assumptions that seem obvious, all these are inherited from your cultural context. Even your most personal thoughts reflect collective patterns. The ancient Greeks personified this understanding in their concept of the muses, divine sources of inspiration that speak through the individual rather than originating from them. The second pillar, emotion, provides the energy and motivation behind experience. Feel the emotional tone coloring this moment. Is there interest, boredom, skepticism, hope? Where exactly are these emotions located? Do they exist in consciousness, or does consciousness exist within them? Can you find the one who feels separate from the feelings themselves? Emotions arise as embodied wisdom, messengers carrying important information about your relationship to the world. Anger signals a boundary violation. Fear warns of potential danger. Joy affirms alignment with your values. Yet modern culture teaches us to manipulate our emotional states rather than listen to their messages. We suppress negative emotions and chase positive ones, not realizing that this selective approach fragments our wholeness. Indigenous wisdom traditions recognize emotions as connections to larger forces rather than merely personal psychological states. In many Native cultures, grief isn't just an individual response to loss, but a sacred practice that maintains the health of the community and even the ecological systems they inhabit. Joy isn't just a pleasant feeling, but a recognition of and participation in the fundamental nature of existence. The third pillar, action, is how consciousness expresses itself in form. Even now, sitting still, countless actions are occurring. Breathing, blinking, subtle movements. Who is performing these actions? Can you find the doer separate from the doing? Consider everyday actions like driving a car or typing on a keyboard. After sufficient practice, these complex behaviors happen automatically without conscious instruction for each movement. The more skilled you become, the less you experience yourself as doing the activity, and the more it feels like the activity is flowing through you. Athletes call this being in the zone. Artists call it being in the flow, and mystics call it surrendered action. The Bhagavad Gita describes this as inaction in action, where the individual ego surrenders its sense of being the doer, allowing action to unfold through them rather than by them. This doesn't mean abdicating responsibility, but recognizing a deeper kind of responsibility. Being responsive to life rather than trying to control it from a position of imagined separation. When these three pillars align through recognition of their common source, something extraordinary happens. Thoughts clarify, emotions harmonize, and action becomes effortless. Not because you've controlled or perfected them, but because you've recognized their essential nature as expressions of awareness itself. This alignment isn't about forcing the pillars into agreement through discipline or will. It's about recognizing the space in which they all appear, the awareness that is your true nature. When this recognition deepens, the pillars naturally synchronize because their apparent separation was only maintained by the belief in a separate self. Try this. For one day, observe your thoughts, emotions, and actions as if you are a curious scientist. Notice when they are in harmony and when they are not. When you catch yourself out of alignment, pause and ask, who is aware of this? In that pause, you may glimpse the spaciousness that holds all three pillars together.
Throughout history, the stairway has symbolized the progressive ascension of consciousness, each step representing a shift in perception, an expansion of awareness. Yet, unlike physical stairs, this inner journey doesn't move from one location to another. It's not about reaching some distant spiritual summit, but recognizing what's been present at every step of your journey. Imagine each thought that appears in your mind as a step. Most of us become so identified with these thought steps that we forget we're the awareness in which they appear. We mistake the content of consciousness for consciousness itself. We live our lives climbing an endless mental staircase, always reaching for the next thought, the next experience, the next achievement, never questioning who is doing the climbing. The Zen tradition calls this mistaking the finger pointing to the moon for the moon itself. We confuse the descriptions of reality, our concepts, beliefs, and interpretations, with reality itself. We collect spiritual ideas, accumulate practices, compare our progress with others, not realizing that what we seek is the very awareness in which all seeking occurs. The great sage Ramana Maharshi cut through this confusion with his direct pointing. Who am I? This simple but profound inquiry isn't asking for a conceptual answer, but inviting a direct recognition of what precedes all concepts. It's an invitation to turn attention back on itself, to discover the source from which all experience springs. Let's take a moment to climb this inner stairway differently, not as a means to reach somewhere else, but as an opportunity to discover who's taking the journey. First step, notice your physical sensations right now. The weight of your body, the rhythm of your breath, the points of contact with your surroundings. Can these sensations exist without awareness of them? Is awareness separate from what it's aware of? Or are they inseparable aspects of the same reality? Allow yourself to fully feel the physicality of this moment, the temperature of the air on your skin, the pressure points where your body contacts surfaces, the continuous motion of breath. Notice how these sensations arise and pass within something that doesn't come and go, the knowing presence that registers each changing experience. Second step, observe the emotions flowing through you. Don't try to change them. Simply witness their texture, their energy, their movement. Are you creating these emotions, or are they arising spontaneously in consciousness? Could they exist without the space of awareness to appear in? Emotions often feel deeply personal, yet their patterns are remarkably universal across cultures and throughout time. The Sanskrit tradition recognized this universality in the concept of rasas, emotional essences or flavors that transcend individual experience. Perhaps emotions aren't possessions of a separate self, but universal energies flowing through the particular form you currently inhabit. Third step, watch your thoughts as they come and go. Notice how they appear from nowhere, linger briefly, and dissolve back into emptiness. Are you producing these thoughts intentionally, or do they emerge by themselves? Can you find the thinker apart from the thoughts? If you look closely, you'll notice that thoughts appear much like sensations, arising spontaneously in awareness. The feeling of authoring them comes after their appearance, not before. The sense of being the thinker is itself another thought appearing in the same awareness. Final step. Shift attention to the awareness itself, that which knows all sensations, emotions, and thoughts. What qualities does this awareness have? Is it limited or boundless? Personal or impersonal? Born or timeless? This is the crucial turn, from focusing on the contents of experience to recognizing the context of experience. Unlike objects of awareness, awareness itself can't be observed as an object. It's not something you can see, but that by which all seeing happens. Not something you can know, but that which makes all knowing possible. With each step of this inner stairway, you're not accumulating more knowledge or becoming more spiritual. Rather, you're shedding layers of misidentification, releasing the belief that you are something separate from the totality of existence. The stairway doesn't lead to enlightenment. It reveals that what you're seeking has been the seeker all along. This recognition isn't a one-time event, but a continuous unfolding. The habitual patterns of identifying as a separate self run deep, reinforced by language, culture, and the apparent evidence of everyday experience. The invitation is to repeatedly climb these steps, not to reach a permanent state of realization, but to become increasingly familiar with your true nature as awareness itself. As this recognition deepens, something shifts in your relationship with life. The desperate search for fulfillment gradually relaxes as you discover that what you've been seeking, peace, love, completeness, isn't found in particular experiences, but in the awareness that holds all experiences. The stairway doesn't lead somewhere else. It leads right back to where you've always been, but with the recognition that this here contains everything you've been searching for there.
The ancient symbol of the all-seeing eye represents not some external deity watching over humanity, but the primordial awareness that is your true nature. This eye of providence doesn't belong to a person. It's the impersonal seeing through which all persons and objects appear. It's not something you possess, but that which makes all possession possible. Throughout history, this symbol appears across cultures, from the Eye of Horus in ancient Egypt to the Eye of Shiva in Hindu traditions, from the Buddhist Eye of Wisdom to the Christian Eye of God. Though interpretations vary, at their esoteric core, these symbols point to the same recognition. Awareness itself is the foundation of all experience, the light that illuminates the world of form. Most spiritual traditions point to this singular truth. You are not the limited entity you take yourself to be. You are the boundless awareness in which all experiences arise, exist, and dissolve. This isn't a belief to accept or reject. It's an invitation to look directly at the nature of your own experience right now. Consider how we typically approach spirituality as a search for something we lack, a journey toward a future state of enlightenment, a process of becoming something other than what we already are. This approach reinforces the very sense of separation it aims to transcend. What if awakening isn't about attaining something new, but recognizing what has always been present? Who or what is reading these words? You might automatically answer, I am or me, but what exactly is this I? Is it your body, your thoughts, your emotions, your life story? Or is it something more fundamental, the aware presence that remains when all else changes? Try this simple experiment. For the next 10 seconds, don't think. Simply be aware without creating thoughts. What happened? Thoughts continued to appear, didn't they? If you were truly the thinker of your thoughts, shouldn't you be able to stop them completely? The fact that thoughts continue despite your intention suggests something profound, that thinking happens to you rather than by you. You are not the thinker, but the awareness of thinking. The great non-dual traditions point to this directly. Zen speaks of original face before your parents were born. Advaita Vedanta points to that which knows the knower. Christian mysticism describes, the eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. These aren't poetic metaphors, but precise descriptions of reality as it is when the veil of conceptual thinking is penetrated. This recognition isn't abstract philosophy, it's immediate freedom. When you realize you're not limited to the character in your life story, but are the awareness in which all stories appear, something shifts fundamentally. Anxiety about the future loosens its grip. Regrets about the past lose their sting. The need to control life diminishes. Not because circumstances change, but because what you take yourself to be expands beyond all circumstances. The eye of awareness sees without judgment, knows without concepts, lives without boundaries. It doesn't reject any experience or cling to any state. It simply allows life to unfold naturally, recognizing all forms as temporary expressions of its own formless nature. This recognition doesn't make you special. It reveals that what you are has never been separate from anything or anyone. The illusion of separation dissolves not through effort, but through clear seeing. The builder realizes it has always been the building materials, the blueprint, and the space in which construction occurs. As awareness recognizes itself, compassion naturally flows, not as a practice or a virtue to cultivate, but as the natural expression of recognizing that others are not truly other. Their suffering and joy appear within the same awareness that you are. Their confusion and clarity, their kindness and cruelty, all arise within the same field of consciousness. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior, but responding to it from recognition of our shared essence rather than from imagined separation. The poet Hafiz expressed this beautifully. I am the hole in a flute that the Christ breath moves through. When the separate self is recognized as an appearance rather than an ultimate reality, life begins to flow through you rather than being controlled by you. Action becomes response rather than reaction, expression rather than effort, participation rather than performance. In practical terms, this recognition transforms every aspect of life. Work becomes play when it's no longer burdened with the weight of self-definition. Relationships deepen when they are no longer cluttered with demands that others fulfill your sense of lack. Creativity flourishes when it's not filtered through concerns about how others will judge your creations. This isn't about achieving a permanent state where challenging emotions or difficult circumstances never arise. It's about recognizing that whatever arises, the aware space in which it appears remains untouched. This recognition may come and go, obscured at times by strong identification with particular experiences. But once glimpsed, it remains available as a refuge not separate from experience, but at the heart of all experience. Within the architecture of consciousness exists what ancients called the inner temple, the sacred space where self-judgment occurs. Here we stand simultaneously as the accused, the accuser, the witness, and the judge. We create elaborate cases against ourselves, prosecute our own perceived failings, and pass sentences of unworthiness and shame. Yet what if this entire courtroom drama occurs within a dream? What if the judge, the judged, and the judgment itself are all appearances within something more fundamental, the awareness that makes all experience possible? Most of us move through life carrying an invisible burden of self-judgment. We believe we're not enough, not successful enough, not attractive enough, not spiritual enough, not loving enough. We imagine that if we could just fix ourselves, become better, wiser, more enlightened, then we would finally deserve peace and happiness. The inner critic appears to be a singular voice, but it actually contains multitudes. It speaks with the internalized voices of parents, teachers, peers, religious authorities, media, and culture. It enforces not universal standards of goodness, but historically and culturally specific norms presented as absolute truths. What's judged as a fatal flaw in one context might be celebrated as a unique gift in another. But what if this very attempt to improve yourself reinforces the illusion that you're a separate self that needs improvement? What if your essential nature is already complete, already perfect, not as a superior version of your personal self, but as the impersonal awareness in which all selves appear? Consider this. Every judgment you've ever had about yourself has come and gone within awareness. Awareness itself remains untouched by judgment, just as space remains unaffected by the objects appearing within it. You've been identifying with the changing contents of consciousness rather than consciousness itself. The temple builders of old understood this profound truth. They constructed physical sanctuaries pointing to the sanctuary of awareness that needs no construction because it was never destroyed. The outer temple served as a reminder of the inner temple that is your true nature, boundless, timeless, and free from all judgment. This isn't spiritual bypass or denial of human experience. It's the recognition that what you fundamentally are encompasses yet transcends all experience. The personal self, with its struggles and achievements, is neither rejected nor idealized. It's simply recognized as a temporary expression of something far more vast. When you truly understand this, compassion naturally flows, not just for others, but for your own human journey, with all its stumbles and triumphs. You stop demanding perfection from yourself and others because you recognize perfection not as an achievement, but as the underlying nature of awareness itself. The 13th century mystic Meister Eckhart captured this understanding. The eye with which I see God is the same eye with which God sees me. In other words, the awareness through which you perceive yourself is the same awareness that is your true nature. When this awareness recognizes itself, self-judgment dissolves not through effort, but through recognition. In this recognition, the inner temple transforms from a courtroom of judgment to a sanctuary of acceptance, not because you become a better person, but because you've glimpsed what lies beyond personhood entirely. The builder realizes it has been building prisons when freedom has been the foundation all along. So I invite you to pause right now. Feel the weight of self-judgment you've been carrying, perhaps for decades. Notice how exhausting it is to constantly evaluate, improve, and criticize yourself. Then just for a moment, let it all go. Not forever, not as a spiritual achievement, but simply as an experiment in freedom. Who would you be without your story of not being enough? What might be possible if you recognize yourself as the awareness in which all stories arise? How might you live if you understood that what you truly are has never been damaged, never been broken, never been separate from the wholeness of existence? This isn't about arriving at a final destination or achieving some permanent state of enlightenment. It's about recognizing the freedom that's already here, in this very moment, the freedom that is your essential nature. If something in these words resonates with your deepest intuition, I invite you to explore further, not by accumulating more concepts or techniques, but by directly investigating your own experience. Who or what are you at the most fundamental level? What remains when all else changes? Share your insights in the comments below. Your expression might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. Remember that this journey of recognition isn't personal. It's the universe awakening to itself through the unique expression that appears as you. The temple doors are always open, The builder is waiting to be recognized as the building itself. The eye of awareness is always seeing, whether recognized or not. The dance of light and darkness continues, with or without your resistance. You are not the seeker you take yourself to be. You are that which makes all seeking possible. The boundless awareness in which all experience arises, exists, and dissolves back into itself. Not as a spiritual concept, but as the living reality of this very moment.